This comment here teaches us a lesson that before you issue termination notice, you need to know all the local rules and state law before that notice is issued. Hi, my name is Rob Wells. I'm the Landlord Warrior on TikTok and YouTube. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe to our videos. Now, I got this comment right here, and it's a very good point. Why I wanted to bring it up was that this commenter was stating that for them to issue a 60-day notice, they were required to give some special notice for victims of domestic violence or abuse. Okay. And this, I want to point out to some landlords here that there are some municipalities that have local rules that require certain disclosures be put in termination notices, or you have to register your notices with the local rent board, as they call it, basically for any termination of tenancy issued in that municipality. And the long story short of it is, before you issue those notices, you need to know your local rules and state law about issuing a termination notice, because if this landlord is in a municipality that regulates terminations of tenancies and they have special notice requirements, like you have to give certain disclosures like this one in the notice right here, your notice may be fatally defective and you can't rely on that in an eviction. The reason why is, in eviction courts in California, because an eviction is not like some type of, it's a procedure created by state law. Okay. And the courts have interpreted these rules for evictions as strict compliance, meaning that you have to follow every little step that state law requires, and also local law as well, if your city or municipality has regulated terminations of tenancies. A couple of classic examples that I can think of off the top of my head are, we have some cities in the Bay Area that require, when the landlord issues a termination notice, they have within like 7 days after issuing that notice to register the termination notice with the proof of service of that notice with the local municipality. If not, their termination notice could be subject to being void for failing to comply with the local statute. Okay. Another thing that I can think about is there's some municipalities that state that if you issue like a 3-day notice to perform, you have to give a verbatim disclosure about the tenant being able to ask for a reasonable accommodation to get, to ask for a variance of the policy so that tenant is not subject to eviction, and they can make that reasonable accommodation request for a medical or a necessity, or for some type of, to facilitate alleviating some type of disability. Okay, as some classic examples here. So under state law, there is no such requirement under California law to notify a tenant about domestic violence, but that local municipality might regulate, that type of conduct, that you have to put that verbatim disclosure in your notice, or if not, you have failed to comply with the local ordinance, and when you try to do an eviction, it might be fatally defective because you didn't follow the local municipality's rules. So long story short, you got to know where you're at. You got to know the local rules before you issue a notice. And we do a lot of termination notices, and a lot of times, sometimes the landlord doesn't comply with state law or these local rules, and we have to tell the landlord the bad news that, hey, this notice is defective. The only way to fix it is we have to serve a revised one, and that usually resets the, any 60-day notice clock, basically, because again, in order for a landlord to evict a tenant in California, the notice has to be proper, and service of that notice has to be proper as well too. So you got to comply with all the rules, not just some of them. All right, landlords, if you're in the Northern California area and you need help terminating a tenancy, feel free to reach out. You can hit our profile link down below. It'll go to our website, and you can book a free case review. Put your comments, questions down below. Until next time, folks, I'll talk to you then. Thanks.